Good morning, students. Welcome to your geography class. I hope all of you are well. Now, as you know, we are continuing chapter 4 agriculture. Okay. Today we will discuss a new topic. As you can see, this is technical and institutional reforms. So, we all know that technical and institutional reforms required in every sector. There was a time in India when agriculture production decreased a lot and we started depending upon other countries for our basic food crops. So we required to improve the production quality and as well as the quantity of agriculture sector. So for that we did some reforms in both technical and institutional sector. Now there were so many steps taken by the government to improve the quality and quantity of the production. Now, substance uses of land without compatible techno-institutional changes have hindered the pace of agriculture development. So, without the technical and institutional changes, when we try to have a good quality and quantity of production, it was affecting the agriculture and as well as it is affecting the livelihood. Okay, so in spite of the development of source of irrigation, most of the farmers in large parts of the country still depend upon the monsoon and natural fertility in order to carry on their agriculture. Yes, of course, still there are so many farmers in India, those who are depending upon this irrigation system naturally and they totally depend upon the natural fertility of the soil. So agriculture is going to have this type of production which is very much less or which decrease. This is not going to helpful our economy as most of the agriculture sector is providing huge employment. Still so many like 60% of us directly or indirectly connected with the agriculture sector, so we need to change the production or we need to improve the production. So for this, first we started the agriculture which provides livelihood for more than 60% of its population needs some serious technical and institutional reforms. So collectivization, consolidation of holdings, corporation and abolition of zamindars were given priority to the bring about institutional reforms in the country after independence. So exactly after independence it was started to have some institutional and technical reforms. So first step was that to abolish zamindar system, okay, and to collect all the land that is undertaken by the zamindars or by the kings. Okay, after abolishing the zamindari system or king system, what happened now? Indian government collected all the land and they started distributing this land among the farmers. So abolition of zamindar, landholding, collectivization is very much important to provide first of all the most important thing to the farmers, that is land. Okay, without land of course production can't work and this is started exactly after the independence. So land reform was the main focus of our first 5 years plan. As we know, after the independence every 5 years government is having a plan. Through this plan government has some focus areas where they need to work. So their first focus area was agriculture sector, that they know they need to improve because population we have now after independence, and of course as you know we have also the partition. So due to the partition between Pakistan, India and Bangladesh, now we have a limited land for agriculture sector but we have a huge population to feed. So we need to work within the land that we have. Okay, so we need to have some land reforms. So for that land reform we need to collect all the land. It should be undertaken and controlled by the central government. So the farmers or the people, those who don't have the land, they can get the facilities of land. So The right to inheritance land already lead to the fragmentation of land holdings necessitating conservation of holdings. So right to inheritance, as we already discussed about right to inheritance, generation by generation when people are getting the land, sometimes people are not using it properly. So it's better to distribute the land in a proper way to the farmers or to do something with the land, okay, so we can get the production. Now the law was of the land reforms were enacted by the law of implementation was lacking or lukewarm. So yes, of course, the planning was the rules as the law was there, but the implementation was lacking behind. The government of India embarked upon the introducing agriculture reforms to improve Indian agriculture in 1960s and 70s. So first step was to collect the land and to distribute it. Second thing is that now it's not only that to land hold, we also need to improve the production, and for that government of India initiated or introduced some agriculture reforms. What are they? Now in 1960s we have green revolution, and as you know, through green revolution the whole method of agriculture sector changed. Now through this green revolution farmers started using chemical pesticide, fertilizer, HYV seeds, tractors, etc, etc. Yes, of course, first 1 year when green revolution started, it was totally in an observation period where we need to observe that is it working or not, and after 1 year when we get to see its successness, automatically the green revolution, the method of green revolution spread it in whole country. Now most of the large farmers are using HYV seeds, chemical pesticide, fertilizer, insecticides, tractors, harvesters, etc. So this was a great success in technological sector in agriculture, okay. Without the green revolution, now through this green revolution production increased a lot, okay. But yes, of course, one more thing is there. It is not equal. The production of agricultural crop is not increased equally in each and every state. Okay, it's a controversy, it's a different thing, but it's not same. Now, not only we have the green revolution, we also have the white revolution. What is white revolution? Now, white revolution means the to have the good production of milk, okay. White revolution means the production of milk. So where white revolution, green revolution having a strategy initiatives to improve the lot of Indian agriculture. As we know, farming animals and agriculture sector both belongs to the primary sector. So the land that we can use for agriculture purpose, of course we are producing some crops. The lands that we are not able to produce crops, what we are using, the land we are using as a grazing land, okay, or as a pasture land where people can farm their animals, okay. We can go for the animal husbandry and it will provide us milk. A huge production of milk is also required nowadays. So both the green revolution, white revolution have their own success. It improved a lot of farmers life, it improved the GDP level of India and the economy, but this too lead to the concentration of development in few selective areas. As I said, now, when the green revolution firstly started, it was strictly prohibited to some states only or some areas only. But in 1980s and 1990s, a comprehensive land development program was initiated. Okay, in 1980s and 1990s, there is one more land program was initiated, which include both the institutional and technical reforms. What are the technical and institutional reforms? Now here first we did the land reforms, right? Then we did the technical part in agriculture sector. Now we need to save the crop as well as we need to improve the quality life of the farmers as well. So provision for crops insurance against drought, flood, cyclone, fire, disease, establishment of Gramin banks. Okay, so first of all, the government started crop insurance. If any natural disaster happen like drought, flood, cyclone, fire, any disease, anything happen to crop, so government will refund the money. So there will be a crop insurance. Then we have some Grameen banks. Okay, yes, of course, in urban areas very easy to access the bank, to it's easy to get the loan, but in rural areas not easy. Okay, so in rural areas started Grameen banks, where within very low rate of interest government started providing farmers loan. Okay, so Grameen banks are the cooperative societies. Grameen bank cooperative societies are doing the same work within very less interest. They are providing loan to the farmers or the rural people. Okay. Mm. Then we have Kisan Credit Card, KCC. Okay, through this credit card farmers are able to get some loan. Okay, they can borrow some money from the bank or from any cooperative sector. So Kisan Credit Card or KCC is there. Then we have PAIS, Personal Accidental Insurance Scheme. So government has provided scheme for the crops, crop insurance is there, but there is no scheme for personally for the farmers. So government initiated insurance scheme for farmers as well. It's their personal insurance scheme. Okay, so government introduced all these schemes not only to protect the crop, government introduced all these schemes to protect the farmer's life as well, or to improve the farmer's life as well. Not only these things, we also have the weather bulletin, agricultural programs for farmers were introduced on the radios and television. The government also announces minimum support price a procurement price for the important crops to check the exploitation of farmers by spectacular and middlemen. Okay, so not only we have this KCCPI, we also have the weather bulletin, which helps farmers to understand the climate. Okay, we also have some farmers program on TV, on radios as well, to make aware. Okay, to provide some awareness, to provide some knowledge to the farmers that how much uh, quantity of pesticide fertilizer they should use, where they should use, when they should use. Okay, these type of information farmers they require this type of knowledge. So government is doing all these things as well. Okay, not only this, we also providing MSP, minimum supported price. So the farmers, those who are selling their product to the middlemen, okay, so they should not exploit them. Okay, so government fixed some amount of crops and some price rates for the particular crop, and they said as well that if a farmer is not able to go to an urban area or to a market to sell their product, they can easily sell these product to the government, and they will get return a specific amount of money which is fixed by the government. So they are going to have a fixed income. So each and every farmer, they are going to have a fixed income. Okay, so these are some technical and institutional reforms done by the Indian government. Okay, so next thing we have, as you can see, Bhudan and Gramdan. So what is this? Now Mahatma Gandhi declared Vinoba Bhave as a spiritual hierarchy. Okay, and he also practiced Vinoba Bhaveji, of course, he also practiced Satyagraha as one of the foremost Satyagrahis. He was a Satyagrahi and he believed the principles and the philosophies of Gandhiji. He was a part of Satyagraha, and he, after death of Gandhiji, he started spreading Swaraj, the concept of Swaraj, to each and every part of the country. So when one day he reached Andhra Pradesh, okay, and he was giving his speech, and he was talking about the philosophies and principles of Gandhiji. So there was a group of farmer, they, or landless labor specifically, they shouted and they said that it's not possible for us to maintain the philosophies and principle of life because we are surviving. What they are facing the problem, the main problem that they are facing, they don't have the land. They don't have the land to cultivate, and when they don't have any land to cultivate, how they can survive themselves, and of course how they can protect their family. Okay, so without the food we can't do anything, we can't believe in anything. So this was a huge problem, so Vinoba Bhaveji, or there's so many people will never realized about this thing, that farmers or people are having this problem as well. There are so many landless people, those who want to do their work, those who want to produce some things, but they are not getting the land. So he said that he is not going to guarantee anyone, but he assured everyone that he is going to talk with central government of India about this problem, and of course we are going to solve it. So So at that time there was Sri Ramchandra Reddy ji was present there. Okay, so he was a wealthy person. He was a zamindar of that village. So he never understand. Yes, this is also a big problem of my people. Okay, so then and there he decided and he donated 80 acres of land to the 80 landless people. Those who said that they are having this type of problem. So Sri Ramchandra ji was first took the initiative and donated his 80 acres of land to the landless people. And this incident was known as Bhudan. As he donated his land, so this incident known as Bhudan or the system known as Bhudan. Then this incident when Bino Bhabiji visited other places of the country and he talked about and he discussed about this incident in every single speech. There's so many people, so many wealthy people, they motivated with this incident and they started donating their land, their village as well to the, of course, to the needy people, to the landless people. Okay, and this whole system became gram dhan. Okay, when land more than 80, 90 or particular one village people started donating to the landless people, it started knowing as gram dhan. So this was a thing that people started understanding about the problem of the people, because if we are not going through the basic problem, if we are not going to complete, if we are not going to solve first of all the basic problem, how we will think about the future. So this was the main basic problem for so many sectors, that people are not having land, so they are struggling for the land. So this was the thing. But not all of them are donated their land or their village for a noble cause. There's some people, those who donated their land just to save their land from the Land Ceiling Act. There are so many zamindar, so many people, those who donated their land, of course, but just to save their land from the Land Ceiling Act, as government said that a particular amount of land everyone should have, more than the land they are going to seal. Okay, so this Bhudan and Ramdan movement initiated by the Vinod Bhave and also known as bloodless revolution. See, for every single revolution, for every single thing we know, we fight. Okay, and there's so many people, they died, we have seen that. But this revolution, that people started donating land to the landless people by, they are, and in return they are not taking any cost, any price. So this started a revolution in our country, and this time revolution without any blood we have. Okay, we don't need to fight with anyone, we don't need to kill anyone, we don't need to die, of course. So this revolution was known as bloodless revolution. Okay, now the next topic, as you can see, we have the contribution of agriculture to the national economy. Now yes, of course, from the ancient time agriculture is the backbone of the Indian economy. Though it shares the gross domestic product or GDP has registered a declining trend in 1951. Yes, of course, after the partition between Pakistan, India and Bangladesh, now we have a limited land for agriculture sector. So the GDP level from the agriculture sector started declining, but still most of the Indians are directly or indirectly depend upon the agriculture sector. It's a share in providing employment and livelihood. So population continues to has a high as 63% in 2001. So maybe it is declined a lot nowadays, but still most of the GDP we are getting it, and of course employment as well, we are getting it from the agriculture sector. Now the declining share of agriculture in the GDP is a matter of serious concern, because any decline in saturation in agriculture will lead to the decline in other spheres as well. Yes, of course, as there are so many industrial sectors that totally depend upon the agriculture sector. If agriculture sector GDP or production started declining, it will affect the other sectors as well. It will affect the secondary sector and tertiary sector. So any sectors, it's not only agriculture sector, any sector declining is affecting other sectors as well, and of course as the overall it will affect the economy. So considering the importance of agriculture in India, the government of India made some efforts to modernize the agriculture. As we know, India still is a developing country. So government of India initiated some steps and they started modernizing the agriculture sector. So first they introduced the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, like which is ICAR, where scientists are making new types of HIV seeds, they are making new types of chemical pesticide, fertilizer, some other product as well to modernize the agriculture sector and to improve the agriculture sector. Then we have agriculture universities, of course, where people can go, can study about the agriculture thing and all. Then we have the veterinary services, animal breeding, of course. Not only we are focusing on agriculture sector specifically, we also have the animal breeding as well. Okay, we centers, we have horticulture development. Yes, of course, there's so many lands that is not suitable specifically for a crop, like for wheat or for rice. Okay, so that land we can use for different purposes as well, for agriculture, for horticulture, for production of vegetables, dry fruits, or any type of fruits. Okay, flowers, of course, these type of production we can go for. So research and development in the field of meteorology and weather forecast as well. So government considers all these steps only to improve the agriculture sector, as still so many people depending upon the agriculture sector directly, and as well as there's so many industrial sector and so many other sectors are there, those who are indirectly they are depending upon the, or directly they are depending upon the agriculture sector. So we need to improve the base. Agriculture sector is our base and we need to improve it. Okay, so apart from these infrastructure sector, we also required to improve the rural infrastructure. Why? Because if roads are not permanent, if in rural areas, if you are not having permanent roads, if you are not able to access to market, or urban areas they can't access to this place. Okay, it's not good, of course. So we need to improve the infrastructure of the rural areas. We need to improve the roads, we need to improve the electricity, we need to improve the education and awareness, of course. Okay, so many things we need to take care just to improve the GDP, just to improve the agriculture sector. And whenever agriculture sector will improve, it will of course definitely improve the GDP as well. Now the above table, as you can see, GDP growth is changed a lot in every single sector in during last some years. Okay, today Indian farmers are facing a big challenge. No matter how much effort we are giving, okay, still we are facing some problem. What are the problems faced by the Indian farmers? The Indian farmers are facing a big challenge from the international competition. Yes, of course, in outer world we have a competition. Not only is India is improving in agriculture sector, other countries as well, they are also improving their agriculture sector. So automatically we are facing a big challenge. Okay, so from international competition and our own government, so our own government is going ahead with the reduction in public investment in agriculture sector, particularly irrigation, power, rural roads, market, mechanization. Okay, so government started, not only we are facing problem in outer world, we also facing problem within our country, because government started declining the subsidies. Okay, as they are not getting the proper subsidies, farmers, of course, they are not getting the proper subsidies. It is affecting the infrastructure, it is affecting each and every part of agriculture sector. So subsidies on fertilizer is a decrease dealing to increase the cost of production. When government is going to decrease the subsidies in these fertilizer, pesticide, harvesters, or in HIVCs, automatically will increase the cost of the production. And whenever the cost of the production will increase, it will, price rate will also increase. So moreover, reduction in import duties on agriculture products have proved detrimental to agriculture. So when the production cost within the country increased a lot, so whenever we are going to sell it outside in the world, we are charging a lot. So this is why we are facing a problem, because there are so many countries those who are selling the same quality and quantity of product within very less price rates, but Indian agriculture sector is charging a high price rate. So automatically there is a competition between the countries. So farmers are withdrawing. Now when farmers are not getting their profit returning, okay, they're not getting their profit in return, automatically they started withdrawing their investment from agriculture, causing the downfall. When farmers started withdrawing their investment, or they started leaving their agriculture sector, automatically there is a huge downfall in agriculture sector, as well as in the employment. Most, as we all know, still agriculture sector or primary sector of India is the most labor absorbing sector. If farmers started withdrawing their investment from agriculture sector, it is not good for us. Okay, first of all, GDP level will decrease, and then of course employment level decrease a lot. So this is all about the contribution of agriculture to the national economy and employment and output. Today we discussed institutional and technological reforms, then we discussed about the Bhudan and Gramdan, and lastly we discussed about the contribution of agriculture to our national economy. Hopefully this video helps you to understand today's topic. We'll discuss about rest of this chapter in your next class. Thank you everyone. Thank you for joining today's class.